Yay.
Good plan.
Um, it's gonna be good. Well, welcome everybody to the round table. It's gonna be a great conversation. Um,
Yes, I'm
I did get
excited.
an email from Jennifer Lowe, New Orleans, Jennifer, and she can't make it, but she gave some feedback on her sleep challenge so far so that we could add that to the conversation. And Kate, I have to say, I was so proud of you. Well, I am so proud of you, but like for what you posted when you said, "Hey, I can come tonight." So tell us about the
I
new
know.
job.
It's been really, really good. Uh, like really good. It's a really good culture, like great people. It's a startup, but it's not that kind of crazy work schedule. Like people get in by kind of 10. Everyone's gone by 5. Everyone's like, I got kids to pick up, and like I put them to bed. And like the 3 founders are men, and they're all like, I'm on dad duty at night. Like I put my kids to bed. Like
That's
I
awesome.
gotta go. So
That's so good.
there's none of this kind of like pride, like, oh, I fixed this thing last night or I worked on the weekend. Like they are really trying to prioritize uh,
Having a
rest.
life.
I think, yeah,
Mm.
which is cool. And maybe that'll change a month from now. I don't know, but it's nice that it's been like that so far, and I
Yeah.
really like what I'm doing and what I'm getting to work on. So yeah, the last couple weeks I've been totally prioritizing that, like getting settled into a new routine, making sure I keep boundaries around it because I'm managing all their social media and I'm building out a community for them. So I have
Cool.
to be on a fair amount with that, but I need to figure out like where my boundaries are. So I still don't have any notifications on my phone. I do for
Nice.
support, but I don't for social media. I just have kind of set check-in points for myself, and I don't check after a certain time. So I still have my phone on like airplane mode at night. I've been like, okay, I still have to sleep from 10 to 6. So I picked out a couple things that I couldn't have go off the rails for this first
Yep.
month, and then cut out everything else, which sadly has meant that I've not been active in the quarterly or Facebook group. I haven't been on like my personal Instagram as much and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, got to. But then I saw the
But
thing was
you're
rest. I'm like, hey, I'm kind of
prioritizing.
like doing it.
Yeah. So this is going to be a very encouraging conversation for you because you're like, I've got the boundaries. I'm doing this. But I have to say, like, it's so cool to see how like smoothly you're making this transition and
Mm.
like drawing the boundaries and like implementing that because I think like a year ago it would have been a totally different story. And that is what I just think is so cool.
I cannot tell you how much all this stuff that I've learned in the past year in the quarterly has helped me with this, and how much I'm now helping this team because I'm putting stuff into
Mm.
place as far as like check-ins and
It's so good.
how we're prioritizing. Like that's the thing I've started with us, and I built up this thing for us, and like here I nominate my top 3 priorities for every weekend. People can see what I'm working on, and my boss, if they're like, oh, I think it should be something else, and we can have a discussion around that. And I've set check-in points, and I'm kind of, yeah, I'm like subtly and not so subtly passing a lot of this onto the rest of the team because it's like, look how much this can help,
It's so
which are all tools that I would not have had before or known how to use. And
so
yeah,
good.
that's really cool.
I
That is so
love
cool.
it.
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah. I had this moment, like the tiniest little moment the other day. And I was like, if I worked a job, what would I do? And I was like, I don't know. Like I've created Modern Planner as it's such a unique thing that I'm like,
Mm.
I don't actually know how I'd take. I mean, yeah, I could come up with something, but I'm like, it would not be as fulfilling. I'm like, nope, I'm in this for the long haul. I just had this moment the other day. I was like, like if I didn't want to have some of the struggles that I'm dealing with, like mental, like getting over some of
Mhm.
the next mental blocks, like there's always the next thing, right? To
Mm-hmm.
like get through. And right now, mom life is kicking my butt. And I'm just like, no, actually, I wouldn't want to have to go and work a full-time job and make someone else happy right now. Being at home is better, even though, yeah, rest, guys.
Does Em start daycare in the fall? Yeah. I forget. She does? So you're going from kind of like the current childcare setup you have.
Yeah. Well, I had 4 weeks this summer where she went to the place where she's going in September. Like the lady only does it for 4 weeks in the summer because then she has her kids and they do vacation and she does a lot of stuff with them. So she loved it. Like sometimes would kind of whine when I went to take and I'm like, this is good. I am very happy. They have a dog. Oh, you guys, can I show you? This is so off topic of rest, but it's not because it's my daughter and gosh, she is. Okay, look at that face.
Okay.
Oh, that is so cute.
It's one of those teddy bear dogs.
I know. And she loves it. We walk in the door, the dog runs up the stairs, and she climbs up the stairs and she goes, and she just gives it like cuddles. She loves the dog. Anyway, it's great. So last week, this week, and next week, it's like a combination of like home and childcare, and it is not going well. So anyway, I'm very excited that she will be soon out of the house again. So yeah, well, and the sleep challenge. So let's jump in. Brogan, do you have a little update for us? We've talked about Kate's work, my child. Do you have something that you'd like to throw in there other than your hair from your YouTube video? I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I watched the little clips. It was cute.
Seriously, it was. I actually have to do like a full-on just blooper video because I was telling this to Ashley, actually. We've been talking about it on Instagram. I literally have like, I reckon it's almost up to like 13 solid minutes just of bloopers.
Do it.
You have to do it.
Oh, because it's actually, my problem is that I have too many. So I've got to try and like cut them down and find the best ones. So that's my problem at the moment.
That's so fun.
But yeah, no, I'm actually really loving video at the moment. And it's just interesting because like when I did video like a year and something ago, like I just really was not feeling it. And so even like, I mean, for me, I just find it really interesting just how like in different seasons, different things suit you better. Yeah. And how like, yeah, trying to do a weekly video a year ago was literally the most painful thing ever.
You also had massive Wi-Fi issues.
I did at that time. That is true, actually. So yeah, it was like Wi-Fi issues. Just couldn't be bothered filming videos. And actually I also upgraded my phone in that time too, and the iPhone camera just keeps getting better, so I'm just kind of using that at the moment. But yeah, I just always find it interesting just how in different seasons different things kind of change, and how I think too, like with what we're learning in the quarterly, like it's actually helped me get a lot better at sticking to the kind of schedule that I set myself, but also then too, like using what Kate talked about in the guest expert training about like not, you know, planning things out too far in advance and working at things too far in advance. And I really loved that because a lot of like what I do personally for like my content and my business stuff, and also what I teach clients, is that same kind of thing. It's like I've tried doing the whole, like batch a year's worth of content like ahead. And I'm just like,
that's a bit too much for me.
I know. I'm like, I can't even think like 2 months ahead right now. So that was actually really refreshing, her perspective on that, because it was kind of like, yeah, cool. Like I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. So yeah, it's been fun. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And totally random. This has nothing to do with our topic of conversation, but I've been watching an Australian TV show on Netflix.
Oh, really?
And so when you're talking, I'm like, it sounds so normal because I've literally had Australian voices in my head. I've been watching, you know, Adriana Zumbo, the dessert pastry chef.
Yeah.
So he has a show called Just Desserts.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been watching on Netflix. And I love it. It's so good. Anyway, but I was just like, I love it. And I've missed it so bad. Like, so it's been really good. It's been over 12 years since I lived there.
Wow. That's a really long time.
And 11 years since I've been back. I went back 1 year after I graduated. Anyway, someday I'm hugging you in person.
Oh, yeah.
It is happening.
Totally.
But it's just the timeline keeps getting extended.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about sleep. Let's start with the sleep challenge. So let me start. I'll read some of Jennifer. You guys know Jennifer, New Orleans Jennifer. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yoga teacher and Pilates or
Yeah.
just yoga? I don't remember. That's so
I
bad.
always think of yoga, but
I know it's yoga for
Yeah.
sure, but I feel like she does both. Anyway, she can correct us when she watches the replay. Sorry, Jennifer. I try. I really do. Anyway, so she said that the first few days of the sleep challenge have been going really well for her. Her goal is to get to bed lights off at 9 p.m. and wake up at 5 a.m. So she said, although I haven't made it to bed at 9 once yet, I've gotten to bed much earlier than I would have without the challenge. And I realized that I need a lot more time for my nighttime routine than I was giving myself, which is such a good notice, right? Like how much time. Anyway, she thought that waking up so early every day would be exhausting. She's like, we'll see how it goes as I get farther in. But so far, she's been way more productive because she has a really long morning routine. She's like, I love self-care if you couldn't tell. Haha. Anyway, and so the extra time in the morning allows her to be fully ready and like get all the important stuff done before lunch, which is so good. And then she's able to like do the fun, kind of fulfilling things in the afternoon. Her struggle so far is when she teaches at night class, there's hardly any time to like eat dinner and do her nighttime routine. So she's still kind of trying to figure that out. And then an interesting notice too is that with going to bed earlier, the time with her husband's cut short. And so they're not connecting as much. So they're trying to figure out how to creatively do that. Well, still, because they both need sleep. So she's like, that's not the issue. We just need to figure out how to spend our time and like catch up and do that. So anyway, I thought that was some great observations. And yeah. What about you guys? How's it going so far?
Yeah, I feel like, I'm pretty sure it was you, Catherine, who said in some video somewhere where like as soon as you focus on something, it like all hits the fan.
It was a Facebook Live just like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what it was. That is literally as soon as the sleep challenge started, like, no, it's just not been good. Like I know that I do it as like a weird self-sabotage thing, even though I love sleep. Like I love sleep so much, but when I get stressed out about things and I get really exhausted, I just don't go to bed. I actually procrastinate going to bed. And so I'll just start like doing other random things or getting like sucked into watching funny YouTube videos or whatever.
read.
Or just like,
but
just
like
do it.
A good book, like an educational book, like one of the ones on my phone, you know, that's just there, like a romantic something. Yeah, I hear you.
So basically like what I found is that, so my goal was to like be in bed like and lights out at 10:30. And basically what I found out is if that doesn't happen, like if I don't do that, I basically have to wait for like a whole other 90-minute cycle until I actually start to wind down. So if I go past that, like I just go into the ramp up, like awake, like, oh no, now I can't sleep type thing. So I suppose I kind of already knew that, but it's just really solidified that fact that if I don't get to bed at 10:30, it's not good. And then,
but you know what? That's such a great notice. Like to be that in tune with like your mental space and like your body that, you know, like if I'm not in bed by 10, it's a 90-minute cycle, man. Whew.
Yeah. So that's fun. But yeah, I just set for my sleep challenge, I wanted to do like, lights out by 10:30, up at 7 because I'm not a morning person. And which also ironic, going to bed super late means it's even harder to get up in the morning. So that's fun. But I think just, I mean, I suppose in that sense, it's been good to have the reminder again that like, no, like this, you just have to do it this way. And I know that I feel better if I just go to bed. And so what I have been trying to do, even if I go to bed late, because like even last night, I knew that I had to get up in time and look somewhat alive for this call. So I do, you know, I do that thing where it's like, oh, I don't think I went to bed till after 11:30 last night. And so then you start going through the, oh wait, it's after 11:30, which means how many hours of sleep I'm getting, and how long is it gonna be till I fall asleep, and I'm gonna feel so exhausted in the morning because I haven't got to bed. Why do I always do this to myself? Like, it just started with all of this like stuff, which I'm like is not conducive to sleep. So what I have been doing in those instances is I use so it's like the Calm meditation app. I just have the free version, but they have like sleep stories on it. So it's actually like people reading you like adult bedtime
Are those
stories.
good or is that weird?
When I first started, I thought it was kind of weird because I felt like a little kid being like tucked into bed and like bedtime story. But I found that, and also to the other thing I found, like if I use it all of the time, I become reliant on it. And it's very hard for me to switch off if I don't have it. Yeah. So what I've been doing is I use it on nights when my brain's like that, when my brain's going like crazy, or I have like an idea for my business right before I need to go to sleep or something, and my brain just starts going. So I found that that's really helpful because then it gives me something to kind of focus on without getting caught up in all the stuff in my head. So yeah, I mean, it's just like figuring out, like some people swear by it, like using it like every single night, and it works really well for them. So yeah, I guess it's just kind of like figuring out what like works for you. And that's what I found kind of works for me, is like if it's in those moments where my brain is just going crazy, then I like to listen to one, and that seems to help. Like normally I'll fall asleep before the story even finishes. So yeah, that's
cool. What's it called? I should write it down so I can put it in the email.
Calm. Be calm. Yeah, and it's got I mean, it's the only annoying thing is like, so I think there's like 3 stories that you get for free, and the paid subscription is like fairly expensive compared to some of the other apps, like the other like meditation.
So is Headspace.
I think it's more expensive than Headspace.
Really? I was like, that is a lot of money. I'm like, I cannot dish out that much money for something like that. I'm like, if I'm going to pay money, it's going to be for like some sort of fitness, like health subscription. Like I've got a couple of those that I really want to do. I'm like,
and I think the thing that annoys me about it too is like, I don't really, I mean, because in the subscription you get like a different daily meditation. There's like all of these other meditations in there by different categories. They also have like different music, which I don't know, but something like, I know some people really like sleep music. I find it actually like, it gives me insomnia. Like I actually can't use music to like the actual like sleep, whatever they call it, where they do it with it's just like, I can't even remember what the science of it is called. But anyway, it's supposed to like do something to your brain waves and like help you calm down. No, it gives me insomnia.
It does the opposite. Well,
it does the opposite. It does the opposite to me. So really all I want from the app is like just the sleep stories, but you can't like just pay for sections. It's like you have to pay for the whole thing. And I'm like, I don't really need the rest of it. But yeah, it's worth checking out. Like there's actually Stephen Fry does one. He actually has a very soothing voice, and it's like all about like walking through the lavender fields and stuff. And it's like one of my favorites. I'm like, whenever I'm feeling really like wired up, that one works really well. So yeah, I mean, it's worth giving a shot.
Yeah. Cool.
One thing I'll say about Headspace, I subscribed after New Year's when it was on like their version of a super sale. Yeah. So with even the conversion to Canadian, I still spent like $70 on a year-long subscription.
That's not too bad.
Which is not too bad. Particularly if I used it, which I don't. So because that was one of the things I bought, because I was like, I'm a person that I would like to be a person that meditates every day. And I had done the 10-day challenge for Headspace in the past. Yeah. Although to be fair, that 10-day challenge took me 45 days to complete. But you know, like New Year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I got like a buffer subscription, and I like, invested in these tools without actually testing that they worked for me first.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I should have actually proven to myself that, like, hey, are you a person that you want to be a person that meditates? Are you a person that meditates? / does this make sense in this season of your life?
That,
So I
Yeah.
should have been like, okay,
that's my thing.
yeah, stick to the 10 free ones. And if you find that you've meditated, like I should have said, like, all right, Kate, if you meditate like X days this month, like 20 days out of this month with the free thing, then like, yeah, this makes sense to you. Like, you're ready for this in the season of your life. You should invest in this. I should not have bought the thing to then convince myself that I needed the thing.
Isn't it interesting though? Because I think that what you just said right there shows up in all of our lives in different areas.
Ooh,
Because
yeah.
it's
Online
like,
courses.
Yep.
yeah, we spend money to get the things because that's what we want to do, as opposed to, I have a habit of learning. I know I'm going to be able to get this course done because I've built a habit of learning. I've been using it for reading books and doing this, and I know that I'm going to do things, so I'm going to purchase this, and I have the habit already built in to like fit into my life. Right. And so that's the one thing, like, I've been really trying to read like hard copy books, right? And it is just in this season, between running my business and mom and house and everything, like it is not happening every day. I want to be that business owner that's like, hey, these are the 4 books I read this month. Not right now, it's not. You know, and I just have to be okay with that and know, you know what, I'm listening to a few podcasts, I'm working my way through a book a quarter right now, we're going to call that a win, you know. And just, but it's very interesting because I think that shows up in a lot of our lives, like, oh well, if I buy all the healthy food, then I'll eat the healthy food. Well, if you haven't taught yourself how to cook the healthy food and how to eat it and haven't started food prepping, then suddenly one day just buying all the healthy food and having it in your fridge isn't going to help you eat it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, let's try one new vegetable this week. Okay, learn how to cook that. Perfect. Okay, got another, you know, like, and I feel like that pace, and this is the thing, which it comes back to what we always talk about in the quarterly, is we all want to do the thing, and we all want to have the skill, and we all want to have the change, and that is not how life happens, right? It's like a journey and figuring out what's most important. And I loved Kiana's post, so shout out to you, Kiana, if you're listening. I think it was just on the weekend where she was revisiting her goals for the year, and she just realized she'd set way too many, and she was like, wait, why do I have this many? I'm setting one here, one here, one here for the rest of the year, and they're probably going to be my same goals in 2019. And I'm like, go girl, because if we can get really focused, we're actually going to make progress in those areas. But we want to change everything like that, and then we get disappointed when for some reason we're not superwoman or magicians.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Same with sleep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's what I'm finding in sleep.
Yeah.
Because I kind of said to myself, like, okay, 10 to 6, which was sort of like an arbitrary, I don't really know where I pulled those numbers from. But it's ended up as a window for me. And in the past, like in the last year, I've been good. But in the last maybe 8 years of my life, like I had long stretches where I could not sleep until it was daylight. I just did not sleep at night. Like my sleep was all over the place. Like medication really messed me up. I would have, from some like past trauma stuff, I wouldn't like feel safe at night. So I would only sleep in daylight. So my history with sleep is like not fantastic. But it's been really good overall in the last couple years. And now I'm trying to get it more even, so that if I'm waking up, say it's around 6 on a weekday, that I'm not letting myself sleep until 11 on a weekend, because I'm not the person, I wish I was, that's like, oh, I can't possibly sleep in past 7. Like some people just wake up. My hardest thing is waking up. I can fall asleep much easier. So I've at least noticed that by this whole year, that's been a goal. Like health has been my number one priority, to try to get my sleep closer to the 10 to 6 window. That now sort of the latest I'll go to bed is 11:30. Like it's really rare that I'll be up past midnight. And even on a weekend in the last kind of couple weeks, at least, the latest has been like 8:30 that I'll wake up. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm keeping it within sort of a 2-hour window on both of kind of my targets. And that's feeling like a win for the most part.
That's great.
And keeping my phone on airplane mode at night has been really helpful. And I'm still experimenting with like what makes sense for me before bed and after I wake up, especially now that I'm going into an office. I was really used to waking up and then reading in bed for an hour, which now I haven't been doing. I still technically, if I woke up at 6, I would have at least like half an hour to read. But I've been sleeping until like 6:30 some mornings, or 7, or pressing snooze on my alarm like way too many times.
You're not the only one, so.
Yeah. But I'm trying to, rather than feeling really guilty that like, oh, why aren't I waking up at 6 and getting in my reading time, just being like, okay, I'm going through other transitions in my life, and the priority is really just to settle in at work, and that I am still sleeping around 8 hours. And if that means I'm not doing a 8-step morning routine in this current season, I'm like, that's okay.
Totally okay.
All right.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, that is good.
Joseph and I started doing, because I was like, last week, I gave him like 5 days notice. I was like, okay, so remember how we're doing a sleep challenge this month for rest? Because he's been really good about reminding me. He's like, is this month's about rest? I think you should go do that instead. And like basically just telling me what to do, which sometimes I can get so in my head about a decision and not sure like what decision I should make. And so sometimes I just need him to say, go do that. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, thank you for giving me, like, it's just like, I need that permission to go do what I knew I needed to do, but didn't want to do because I felt guilty about doing it. Anyway, and so I gave him about 5 days notice. I'm like, so the sleep challenge officially starts on Monday. I would like to start easing into it on the weekend and like start trying to do this. And so my goal is to stop whatever I'm doing at 9, start like my wind down, get ready for bed. And the goal is like lights out at 9:45, because I know that it takes me usually about 15 minutes to fall asleep, or less, depends. Which, as Ashley says, means I'm overtired, and I was like, oh, surprise. Anyway, and so then my alarm goes off at 5:55. The goal being that like I'm up. I usually need like one snooze, or like I grab my neck exercise. I do my neck pillow thing in the morning just to like while I try to open my eyes. Anyway, so of course, we've talked about this. He's like, yeah, I think that'd be really good. Like, I need more sleep. Anyway, so let's just do this together. And so we were in bed, lights out at 9:45 on Friday night. And Em was up 4 times. She was up at 11. She was up at 1:30. She was up at 4. And she was up at 5:30. And the next morning, we both looked at each other and were like, what is going on? Anyway, she's been up at least once every night since then, and it's exhausting. It feels like I'm back in the first couple of months of parenting. Anyway, it's been brutal. So I've been within 10 minutes of going to bed, like lights out, and getting up in the morning. The problem is that it is not straight sleep. My goal is 7.5 hours of sleep in a row. That's the key for me. Mm-hmm. So I've been getting between 6.5 and 7.5, but like in 2 or 4 chunks. Anyway, so that's how my sleep challenge is going. And so what I'm actually doing is I'm tracking. I'm doing this. I'm tracking. I didn't track it on the weekend, but it was 4, 3, and 2. That's how many times. Like Friday night, she was up 4 times. Saturday night, she was up 2 times. Sunday night, she was up 2 times. So, but this week I have the number with an arrow up. So I'm actually tracking, like, did I go to sleep? But then how many times was I up? Because that really affects like how I feel. And I'm hoping that I feel better on the days that she's up less. And it's just because we've got teething, cold, sleep regression, some growth spurts all happening in the last 2 weeks, all at one time.
Yeah.
As I said, motherhood's kicking me in the butt right now.
No.
All right. Well, that's sleep. Any other thoughts on sleep?
The point about choosing a time to wind down is so key, and it's obvious, but we just don't think about it.
I know.
In your mind, are like, I'm going to go to bed at 10, so I'm going to keep working on a project or whatever until 9:59, and then expect to be asleep at 10. Like, what? But that's literally what I thought was the case, and you really do have to build in that buffer, which sounds so obvious, but you just never really think about that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think too, like Joseph and I, for the last like 6 months, our evening themes have been pretty like intense. Like it's personal finances or business finances or a studio night, or like we have one date night in a week, but our other 4 nights are like work nights on finances, business or personal, modern planner or studio. So like that's what we do. And so, but we were going way too late. And so then by the time we're actually in bed, I would just be so tired. So for us to work from like 8 till 9 and then shut it down after an hour, it's so hard. But I'm like, we have to do this. Like that's by stopping at 9, the only way we're actually going to have time in bed and like sleep, you know, and even just talk about our day. Cause we go from working to I'm making dinner. He comes up, we eat, we do the bedtime thing for M, and then I wash dishes, and then I come down and join him and we work, and then we get ready. So it's like we never talk about our day unless we end early enough that we can, like, while we're getting ready, we do our debrief and what was a highlight, and, you know, like, and we have that conversation. If we don't have that time, then we either don't have that conversation or it means we're up way, way later. So we're just seeing how important it really is and praying that our daughter starts sleeping through the night again. Have either of you guys done the burnt out fun filling worksheet? I haven't done it actually on hard copy.
Yeah, I haven't done it properly. I just started thinking about the fun and fulfilling thing.
Yeah, I did the burnt out part, but I got a little bit confused with the difference exactly between the 3 options. Or maybe I just don't have anything. So
the burnt out one?
No, in the fun fulfilling and both.
Well, and you know what? It's tricky because in different seasons, I feel like you don't always have a combination. So for instance, like one of my fun things, like in the summer, I just want to be outside. Give me the fresh air. I don't care if it's at a pool. I don't care if it's in the front yard. I don't care if it's going for a walk or the beach. I just want to be outside. So for me, that is fun. But family time is something that's fulfilling. So what I would consider both would be when we do our like weekly park and splash pad outing. To me, that is fun and it's fulfilling. So it's like one activity and it's like the 2 birds with 1 stone thing, right? So it's like, I love reading and reading is fun, but reading isn't really fulfilling unless it's like about a topic that I love or about Modern Planner or it's like personal growth. So like I can read, like I have my Kobo app on my phone and I always have like fictional books and like, you know, contemporary romance, like just kind of like light, fluffier reading. Although I like Catherine Shea. She's a really good writer. Anyway, side note. Hi, Tiana. And so one of the things that I've noticed is like reading is fun, but it's only fulfilling if it's more of like a personal development type book. Like it has more meaning, like, and I actually enjoy it even that much more when it's a hard copy and whatever. So anyway, that would be kind of a couple examples for me anyway. And hopefully does that help?
Yeah. Okay. So because in like the description, I think that's what confused me a little bit. So you had like, and maybe it's just because all of my stuff is a crossover. So even in the examples you gave, like even if I'm reading fiction, which I find fun, I also find that fulfilling because it helps me to become a better writer and a better content creator. So totally. I think maybe that's where I'm getting confused is maybe a lot of because I suppose I tend to pick either like hobbies that are fulfilling automatically. So maybe
Right.
that's just where I'm getting confused, where actually everything is a combination of both.
Well, and if you're being really intentional, see, this is also an interesting thing to notice, because I would say that if you're a really intentional person, you might have more of them that are both, because you realize, well, I only have this much time to do fun things, so I want it to like be really meaningful for me. Right. So someone might have something fulfilling, like maybe it's volunteering for like a charity or a nonprofit in their community. And that might be a really fulfilling thing. It might not be a fun thing, right? Like maybe their fun thing is like knitting. I don't know. Right. But something that's really fulfilling is this charity, but they love their family. So if they can volunteer at the charity and there's sometimes opportunities for them to bring their kids along, now that's like double fulfilling because it's the family and the charity together.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just helping us acknowledge like, what are the things that we do for fun? And then what are the things that are also like really fulfilling and hit a passion? And how can I maybe combine them a little bit more or do things that are both? So that we're using our time, the time that we do have, more effectively.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I'll find that fulfilling stuff for me, there'll often be resistance around that, and I might procrastinate it. So I might find working out ultimately fulfilling, but I'm not necessarily looking forward to it. Like at some phases of my life, I get excited about that, but it might not be like, ooh, this fun thing that I'm about to go do. But after, I'll always feel like empowered and fulfilled.
Totally.
Or even sometimes like writing will feel like hard, and there'll be a lot of resistance around that because there'll be a topic I want to write about, but I'm like, who am I to write on this thing? And I'll have to like get over all this fear stuff. And when I do it, I feel really fulfilled, but it wasn't necessarily fun during.
Totally.
So that's one thing that I'll notice about the difference with that. Like there'll be fulfilling stuff and it's usually resistance around it for me. And there's like fear that will stop me from wanting to do it or seeing it as a fun thing to start.
That's really an interesting
notice. End up being fun. I'll notice that, but like a purely fun thing, like, yeah, of course I want to go for a hike in the park. Like there's no resistance around that for me. I don't have to get over fears. I don't have to like convince myself I'm good enough to deserve to walk in the park, but but I'll have to do that
either for walking in the park. But you know what I do struggle with is things that are purely fun. That's my thing.
To do it?
I feel guilty. Like painting my nails. Guys, you don't even know. I have such a block that I have to like work through, because for me to sit one night, it has to be a whole night. Otherwise they get wrecked. And so why bother? This is me, right? And so it's just like, for me to take the entire night to say, okay, as soon as M's in bed, I'm not doing any dishes, I'm not doing whatever. I am painting my toenails and watching a movie, and then sitting and letting them dry before I go to bed is like a really hard thing for me to do, because there's always something on the list. And so I have a hard time doing things that are just for fun, because it's showing that I'm valuable and I'm worth doing something frivolous that has no meaning, right? Like no value. I guess it has meaning in terms of like showing myself meaning and value, but like it has no external value. Anyway, if you hadn't noticed that I grew up a very high performance oriented person, that's coming through in tonight's conversation. Anyway, so yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That's what I struggle with the most, is the things that are purely fun. So it's more just to get you thinking, like, what do you have in your life? Because when I first did this exercise years ago, and I did the activity audit, and I was looking at, okay, like, what are the things that are fun and fulfilling in my life? I had nothing that I was actively doing. Everything was stuff that I wanted to be doing. And I was like,
and maybe that's the thing too. Because maybe when, I don't even remember, was it when we first met? Anyway, you got me to do an activity audit sometime, and maybe it was because I've done it before, and I went through that same realization of going, where's all the fun stuff? Like, why is this all just work?
Exactly.
So maybe I've been like, can you be subconsciously intentional? Maybe that's what I've been doing. I'm making like
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
so
maybe that's
good.
why it felt a little bit confusing. But yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense now.
Good, good. I do want to give another shout out because I said hi to Tiana when you first popped on, and then you got rid of your video and mic, so I didn't know if you heard me. So I wanted to say hi. And Cindy just popped on too. So hi, Cindy. Glad that you guys. Your video is like super fuzzy. I don't know. Anyway, it almost looked like you had like a filter. It must just be dark. Anyway, and Tiana says, hi. I hope you just enjoyed the conversation we were having about fun and fulfilling things. If you guys have something to chime in about fun and fulfilling, drop it in the chat, or feel free to jump in. Tiana, you're so cute. There's a little person in my room, so I'm trying to be incognito over here. Totally, it's all good. You do that. You be incognito. So this week, one of the things, well, no, technically it's next week. This is the only thing. Sometimes the roundtable works being in the second week, and it's in the second week, but it feels like it's early for some reason this month. I don't know. But we can't leave it too long because then it's too close to the planning party. And anyway, but next week we're talking about incorporating exercise, fresh air, and silence. We've already kind of touched a little bit on meditation when we were talking about that earlier and our lack thereof of using meditation apps. But any thoughts on, or because coming up is the day of rest too. So let's just tie this all in together, because if you've looked ahead, you'll know that in week 4, it's brainstorming and putting together what some activities and like a rough kind of schedule would look like. So say you were to put on once a month a full day of like rest where you weren't going to do like work or like intense stuff. What would that kind of ideal day look like? It's not like you have to have every like 30 minutes structured. Like that's totally not the point of that. And I'll talk about that more on a Facebook Live, but it's more like, and this is why I specifically did morning, afternoon, evening. Like, is there something, 1 or 2 things you'd like to do in the morning on that day, or the afternoon, or like evening, like, a day of rest? I want to paint my toenails. Like that's actually one of the things that I want to do because I don't do it. So anyway, those are things that are coming up: exercise, fresh air, silence, and then the day of rest. So I just thought we'd talk about the sleep thing and the burnt out thing, but then also like just touch on those things if you already have had thoughts or stuff come up for you around those topics. So anybody jump in.
I think it links back to what you were saying before about like making things fun. And I found that especially like with exercise, it has to be fun for me. I guess too, because it all links back to it being both fun and fulfilling. Like pretty much any activity I do has to be both now. But yeah, I found like, so I think we had this conversation on a Facebook Live where we all said that like we used to run and now we can't because of we're all injured and stuff. Can we
just face it? We're getting older. Our bodies are as young.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm not old enough yet. I shouldn't be old enough yet to be injured. But yeah, so I used to really love running for cardio, but when like everything else in my life, way too hardcore, and ended up giving myself shin splints, which meant I actually physically almost couldn't walk for like 2 weeks, which was fun when at the time I lived on a 2nd-story apartment.
Oh, good.
I love your humor. I just have to put that out. I love your, oh good. Like just, you're so funny. Okay. Continue, Brogan.
Oh no, that was my reaction to it. I was like, how ironic is my life? I literally, okay. It was like, I loved my apartment, but the building was really old and kind of dodgy. And like, so the staircase, the railing was like not particularly like safe. And I'd be like using it to like drag myself up the stairs going, I feel like I'm going to injure myself even more if this thing collapses. But anyway, linking back to what I was actually saying. So yeah, like now I actually really love doing like dance for cardio, like not in public because let's be honest, I'm not a dancer. So I just really like doing it like at home, and it's really fun. And I found that I'm it's also a good like stress reliever as well.
Totally.
And I've just found it's so much easier to stick to it if it's just fun and there's kind of like that you don't even feel like you're working out because you're just like, yeah, you're just like following along with a video on YouTube or whatever. And so, yeah, I found that definitely really helps, is making it fun, and it makes it so much easier to stick to.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love Cindy already put in her like morning, afternoon, evening thing for day of rest. So you are on it. She said morning, relaxing bath, reading a book, afternoon, take a walk in a nearby forest, evening, dinner with family. I love it. So simple, but it sounds lovely. I think we should all do that one day and just see what happens. Although dinner with family, depending on this age and stage of your family, as I'm sure, Tiana, you can understand, and Mary won't be watching the replay. But like those of us with kids, dinner with family isn't always super relaxing. You know, like having to make dinner and eat with kids, you know, like I'd rather actually like pack a picnic and like leave the house and not worry about the mess and the dishes and the, you know, Gianna just laughed out loud. Yes, these kids are 12 and 21, right? Like dinner with family, dinner is kind of the worst. It's just tough. Like they still need help getting foods. I mean, you're eating cold food. Like it just isn't exciting. Like on my day of rest, I actually just want to be able to like leave the house and go, like, I'll eat a smoothie for dinner if I don't have to make it or wash any dishes, you know, like, and I'm quite satisfied with that. Anyway. Yeah. I think part of my monthly day of rest is going to actually include like leaving the house by myself. I think it's I'm starting to think about what that might look like. Kate's like, that's
I'm so not to be able to handle kids. I have these moments lately, like someone told me once you hit like late 20s, you're going to get really broody and want kids. And that 100% happened to me. But then stuff like this, I don't know.
There's enough of us moms in the quarterly that if having children is not something you want to do, you won't necessarily, you hear enough real stuff that it won't necessarily deter you from that train of thought. Yeah, it's great. Like it is the most wonderful thing ever, but it is the hardest, by far the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've only got one, you know, but yeah, I just told Joseph the other day, I'm like, I'm so grateful for my business and I'm so grateful that you let me do this and that we have some childcare as an option, because like, I'm just realizing like I've always wanted to be a mom, but like I am not full-time stay-at-home mom material. Like that is so not my jam. And so I'm just really grateful that, you know, I've got somebody that supports me in doing that. It isn't like, no, you need to, it's more important that the house is done and that our meals are great and the kids are like, you know, so that's been a really great thing for me, because especially with the last couple of weeks kicking my butt, I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I want to just read a couple of the comments. Tiana, I really want to take a bath in silence, like make Andrew leave the house with kids so be quiet. Oh yeah, that's a good one too. So this is what we should do, Tiana. The husband should leave the house with the kids in the morning, let us have in the morning at home by ourselves, and then he can come home for the afternoon, and then we can leave and go out for the afternoon and run errands by ourselves, and then come home and I'll pay. This is sounding great. Cindy, I can remember those days when having a shower without interruption was a blessing. Yes. I will never get to shower. My kids always jump in or sit in the room and try to talk to me. I can't wait till they're old enough and they can't anymore. That's so funny. Yeah, no, it's true. You don't see a shower the same way after having children. You do not take it for granted. It's just like this wonderful, beautiful thing. Anyway, okay. All the single girls are like,
No, okay, this is going to sound really bad, but I remember we went on like a family trip. My auntie and uncle they still have a house further up north on the beach. From my uncle is a retired cray fisherman, so they actually used to live up there, and we all go up there, and it's like, so there was literally like maybe 10 of us in this house, And my cousins had flown over from Sydney with their, like, I think she was 3 at the time. And there was this one day where, like, I think people got up early to go fishing. And so everyone, like, just basically fell asleep all around the house except the 3-year-old. And so, and she's very, very active. And so I was like,
3-year-olds are.
Yeah, but like even more so than a normal 3-year-old. So I was like, I guess I should stay awake to make sure, like, you know, she's safe and not any. So literally it was only for an hour and I was just like, I can't do this, because she literally the whole time she's sitting there and she's like, I was trying to get her to color in on the floor, which then turned into coloring in the carpet on the floor, which then turned into, why is grandma making that noise? Why is she snoring? Why is she tired? Why is she sleeping? And I was like, shh, they're sleeping. Like, just let them sleep. Sometimes adults get tired and they need to sleep. And she's like, but I'm not tired. And I was like, obviously, but just give everyone a break. Like,
yeah, Tiana just
like,
said the why stage is the best. It's a busy stage because they're just asking questions about everything.
It just didn't stop. And then the same question. I'm like, I just answered that. Why are you asking it again?
Welcome to the 3s. Welcome to the 3s. It's so true. It's so true. Okay. Any other thoughts about rest? What's coming up for you? I think we've shared some really interesting notices tonight about like how things are coming up. So hopefully for those of you watching the replay, you've been able to take something from this and kind of like see something in a new way, or at least laugh at Kate and Brogan's jokes.
Someone needs to.
Someone needs to, other than me. Any other thoughts before we wrap things up?
I'm going to unmute real fast. So
yeah.
I just want to say that I'm really, really thankful that we're doing this. Honey, please be quiet. Because like when I actually saw that rest was on the like schedule for the quarterly, I was kind of disappointed, to be totally honest. I was like, rest? But I need to be hustling and like getting stuff organized and all this stuff. And then when you posted about the sleep challenge, I was like, thank you, Jesus, because I need sleep. So it's actually like, as much as I was like really not looking forward to this, I'm really excited that you're forcing us to do this, because I'm like, rest is so important. And I'm realizing that like one of my things that I want to do, and I have to figure out like one thing that I really love to do is play The Sims. It's a computer game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's like amazing. Yes. And it's just mindless. It's and so addictive. And I decided that that's just something I need to make like 3 hours for, because it helps relax me and it's something that I like, even though it adds nothing to my life, but it's like just a thing for me.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Tablet part, go. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's so good. How have you been finding the sleep challenge, Jana? Or what are you doing? Like, we talked about the sleep challenge at the beginning, but since you're on, jump in.
I haven't really done it yet. So Andrew's supposed to get home tomorrow at midnight. So I'm hoping that my husband's home, we can get back on a regular schedule. As you can hear, there's a person in my room and she knows how to make me feel guilty every night. And so then we stay up late but I'm excited for it though. Yeah. I also want to schedule naps because I think naps are life.
You know what? Who else was saying that? Brittany. Brittany was saying that she's done really well with her like night sleep, but she wanted to, her sleep challenge, she was actually going to shift it and start like looking at like napping and stuff. So real story, earlier in the call, I mentioned how sometimes my husband just needs to tell me to do something. And I've been having this like mental internal war about what I should do. And he's just like, you need to go do that. And I'm like, okay. And I just go do it because I know that that's what I wanted to need, what I wanted, what I needed, whatever. Anyway, so this happened on Saturday. And so I was like yawning, exhausted because Em was up 4 times in the night and just with all the teething stuff and whatever. And I was so exhausted, and he's like, you just need to go have a nap. I was like, okay. And I walked straight upstairs and climbed into bed. There was no fight. There was no whatever. I was like, yes, yes. And so I did it. The problem was that it wasn't quite long enough, and I woke up cranky, like mean cranky. Like I was not a nice person to have to be married to for the rest of the day. Like I was just off. Everything was setting me up, and I was like, I am not ever napping again. So like I have found naps to be helpful sometimes, but if it doesn't work out for me, naps are like worse. Like I'm better off getting more sleep at night and just pushing through during the day. Anyway, that was my most recent experience with a nap that I just.
Yeah. I'm the same. I can't, unless I'm sick or I'm just like jet lagged or like completely exhausted, more so than normal, then I can nap. But otherwise, there's no point. It's worse for me.
Yeah, I have found it to be really tough. I just want to read Cindy's comment. After a very stressful July and first couple weeks of August, forcing myself to rest, catch up on sleep, and be intentional for the rest of the month. So grateful for this theme. Yay! I'm so glad. Cindy. And this is the thing, like sometimes it doesn't always make sense. And even when I was planning out this year's curriculum and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a month about rest, it seemed very counterintuitive. And I actually love, Tiana, that you mentioned that you were kind of disappointed because that means I'm doing my job. You know what I mean? Like that means that it's about the intentional living and bringing in all aspects of it, even the stuff that we don't love or we don't think we need, because it ends up benefiting us in some way, even though we don't see it in the moment. So I think that's great. So good. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, guys. I love it. Thank you for joining in live. Any closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
Looking forward to sleeping.
I know. Now everybody to go to bed except for Brogan, who is
me.
now ready for her day.
I'm actually ready to go back to bed, but anyway, I can't.
No, you can't.
8:30 in the morning.
I know. All right. Well, let's all go get really good night's sleeps and we'll check in. I'm going live in Facebook tomorrow at 10 a.m. to do our
tonight.
End of the week. Yeah, you're tonight to do our, weekly check-in. And I'm hoping, it always depends on how long it takes to like save and upload and whatever, but I'll get the replay email out before I go to bed tonight. Fingers crossed. And just one last reminder, guys, the Life is Planned Insta Summit is next week. Yeah. Have you seen the speaker lineup? Have you seen the topics? It's so exciting. Anyway, I'm really, really pumped about it. It's going to be so good. Tiana just said, I'm so excited. The topics are pretty amazing. I'm really happy. This is me testing the waters to see if a summit all about planning is something that people would even attend. So far, it seems like it's getting a pretty good response, but a lot of people are like, what is an Insta Summit? I'm like, I love that we're creating something new. Anyway, so it's going to be really fun. But yeah, so you guys you didn't get automatically signed up for it. Like I made it like an option for you. So if you haven't gotten the schedule via email, go back to last Monday's email and click if you want to at least know, like even for you, Kate, or for anyone else that is like working or has other stuff, if you want to know what time a speaker's on, make sure that you click that so that you.
Yeah, I signed up to get the thing. I don't know how much of it I'll actually see.
Yeah.
I can't even believe you put that I don't know where you're finding the time to put this stuff together, but it looks real awesome.
Well, it means that I don't have everything ready for September for you guys yet. You know what I mean? Like that's what it means, right? So it's just priorities. So we do the Insta Summit and then I will finish everything for September. So it just has bumped me a little bit, but before. Sometimes what I'm learning is I can wait to do things until like I'm totally prepared and ready and blah, blah, blah. But then I don't end up doing things or like I keep pushing it. And so I'm just really trying to walk the line of not overwhelming myself with too much stuff, but pushing myself to do things maybe before I'm ready. And trying to figure out what that line is, with limited childcare, with trying to sleep, you know, with all the things, just trying to figure out where is that line between like doing something cool and new and pushing myself to just get it done, or waiting until the time is right, because the time is never right. You know, like something else will always come up. And like I'm experiencing, you know, the 2 weeks before your summit, your child will be teething and not sleeping through the night, and you'll be exhausted every day. Right. So like life doesn't go as planned. So it's life. Right? And I think that's what we're all on the journey of figuring out, like with all these things that we have in our life, to figure out how do we prioritize and still make progress on things, but not overextend ourselves. And it's an ever evolving journey, and every season, like 2 months ago looks different. And I'm hoping that once she's in childcare in September, like then it will look different again, and I'll be able to readjust and get used to that. So yeah, we're all on a journey. I'm right there with you. So it's awesome. Well, thanks guys for jumping in tonight. I'm so glad you could make it live. I hope that you have an incredible night's sleep or day of work, Brogan. And for those of you watching the replay, thanks for joining in. I hope you found this enlightening, entertaining at the least. And I'll catch you guys all in the Facebook group tomorrow. See you later.